Hey, guys. Hi, we're back with Dallas Geek. I'm Mike. No, Brad. I'm Brad. That's Mike. And down here we have our great friend David from the Last Call podcast. Oh man. Oh guys, this is gonna be something. All I know is Mike suggested that we would stray from the norm. He suggested we would try this whole sports thing, and I mean I got into it. I got into it. I was committed. I may have gone a little too far. I feel like I went down a rabbit hole. I don't know if I can really come back. Guys, how y'all doing? I think I need another one of these. I don't know.
Thank you. Oh God.
Brad,
how you doing?
Brad, you look like a combo of Mike and the kid in Wedding Crashers.
Hi. Yeah. Well. I don't know. I don't know. Mike, you doing all right? It's been a little while. You good? Good.
I'm good.
Okay. Cool.
I'm good.
Mike, get control of yourself. I cannot believe we're going to be talking sports on Dallas Geek. Oh my God! I never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah. Sports. No, that's definitely what we're talking about. Oh boy. And specifically baseball. Yes. Baseball is the thing that we're talking about. Baseball movies. It's nerd adjacent, so you know it qualifies. Apparently.
Hey Brad, I've got my in honor of Mike. See, Mike thought this was a Red Sox shirt. It's actually a Red Locks shirt. I need to bring some of the Jewish tribe to this podcast, and I have my Texas Rangers thing. Mike, congratulations to the Red Sox. Brad, I know you're right on this, like you are with any sports, but the Red Sox are currently the worst team in the American League.
Yes, the Red Sox are a baseball team, a very popular one, right? Yeah. No, that's definitely right. Yeah.
Yes, and they're
That's
bad.
all right.
They're really, really bad right now. Like they suck.
That's right. Still got the Celtics.
Okay.
You know who he's kind of like now? He's like the guy in anger management who's listening to the Sixers game.
The anger sharks are swimming in my head.
I feel like
Wait, Brad,
I feel like there's something.
Do you have dirt underneath your eyes?
No. These are just the bags from the sleepless nights of research that I did, going down this this just infinite hole that it never stopped. It never stopped. There were innings. There were fouls. There were RBIs. Things that I had to learn. It never ended. It just kept going and going.
First of all,
I thought the pandemic was supposed to mean there were no sports.
First of all, RBI stands for runs batted in, so it's not RBIs, it's just RBI. It's already plural. Second of all, isn't an infinite hole the name of James Harden's favorite strip club?
You just about broke Brad. Brad, the only thing I need you to do is, can you do the Mike Brookwood slapping hands together and getting excited? You can do it. You can pull it off. Find your inner zen.
Was that right? Was that right?
No, you gotta.
I don't know anymore.
Together like you're Mr. Miyagi, doing the heat. Yes, there it is. That's Mike Brookwood before any sporting event I've ever seen.
You can both.
But before we get too far off track, I feel like there's something that I'm forgetting. Necessary shilling, guys. If you like our stuff, and you've seen us before, or if this is your first time, I am terribly sorry this is your first experience with us. But if you end up liking what we do, and want to see more,
the same thing when well, you know what? Never mind.
And you'd like to see more of us.
I love that shirt.
Don't forget, you can always follow us and like our videos over on Facebook. You can like and subscribe over on YouTube. And of course, if you end up liking us but don't always have time for the videos, the videos, you want to be able to hear more of us for whatever reason you may want to, you can always go check us out on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, which apparently is becoming Google Podcast, apparently, and Stitcher. Yes, you can go check out the audio of our stuff over there, our interviews, our live streams, all of our stuff, and check us out. So, yeah, thank you, and seriously, I really have to apologize if this is your first time witnessing this. They broke me. I'm sorry, but they broke me.
I feel like Brad's trying to do like his best representation of baseball in the 70s, where guys were just coked out of their minds left and right.
70s? I thought they were. I thought they were still coked out of their minds.
No.
Did I misunderstand?
Now they're on steroids.
No.
They're on steroids.
They're still
okay.
Coked. They're still coked. Daryl Strawberry was at a Trump rally the other day. There's still cocaine.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, if Daryl's around, you know there's a party.
Hey,
okay.
Quick question, Brad. Last time I was on
yes.
here, we did that amazing trivia contest. I just want to have
yes.
a quick, fun question for you. Can you tell me who the inventor of baseball is?
Was a guy.
Very good. You got it. Mike,
he was an American guy.
Do you know who it was, Mike?
I actually, off the top of my head, I don't.
Abner Doubleday.
I know it was a doctor.
There you go, Brad.
Thank you.
Abner Doubleday, my friend.
Awesome.
Brad is
now,
so
guys,
happy that man created this sport. Right now,
he looks like Pattinson at the end of the.
He's got a
he looks like Pattinson at the end of the Batman trailer. Yep.
Actually, he's starting to look like, what's his name, Mike? The guy on Gotham?
Oh, yeah.
The Penguin, whoever plays the Penguin, what's his name?
Well, I just need Brad to beat the hell out of some dude with clown.
Because he knows I'm right. That's who he looks like right now.
I need Brad to beat the hell out of some guy with clown makeup and say, "I'm vengeance."
Oh my god. The haircut is the best. The haircut, I've never seen Brad with that hair. That is unbelievable.
He looks like me in my early 20s.
Mike, he looks like Darian Hatcher on the bench.
So, I have to say, there is a theory I have. After diving into all this, I have a theory about baseball movies. It makes sense. It's the only thing that makes sense. Baseball movies are superhero movies for jocks. Same formula, same everything. Follow me on this. So, superhero movie. You have the guy, the girl, the whoever, the hero that has to that believes that they are the hero, or they are the returning champ, but not quite in their prime anymore. They are trying to find their way, and then they have to come in and be inspired. They try, they fail, they end up finding a mentor or becoming a mentor, and they get inspired. And then there's a training montage, always a training montage. And then, after the training montage, there's a success. proves that they're on the right track. But then, there's drama. Always drama. And then, the big finale. Now, with baseball, same thing. You got the rookie or the returning vet trying to get back into their prime. And they have to be inspired to be able to come to their best. And there's always a training
Mike,
montage.
Mike, did I stumble into an AA podcast? Or...
Well, I really want Brad with that hair and those eyes to say, do I really look like a guy with a plan?
And after the training montage, you got the game, the first game of the season, or the preseason, or whatever it is. And they win, but then it goes downhill, and there's some drama, either on the team drama, or family drama, or something. And then they're brought back for the big game at the end, and then all of a sudden, they win. It's the same thing. It's a superhero movie for jocks.
I just feel like Brad should just be quoting lines from the Dark Knight's Joker at this point.
I know.
You didn't really think I'd risk the fight for Gotham's soul in a fist fight with
Brad,
you?
It's very interesting.
But tell me I'm wrong, though. Tell me I'm wrong.
So, Brad, I've definitely thought about athletes being viewed as superheroes before. I think that's a great analogy that you're using. What I would say to you is, I think, and we're going to talk about some of that today, I think that there are definitely a lot of sports movies and baseball movies in particular that have the formulaic thing of what you're talking about. But I think the great ones, like the absolute ones that have become classics, have been the ones that haven't been as formulaic as you're talking about. And that's why they've appealed more to a mainstream audience. But I definitely think what you're saying has validity. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll see about that.
And then the question, I guess, would be, Brad, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Does that mean superhero movies are trying to be more like baseball movies, or baseball movies are trying to be more like superhero movies? That'll throw you for a loop right there for a while.
Well, I guess we're going to have to find out, because I've seen your list. I know exactly that every one of these movies, except for maybe one,
Brad, how many innings
formula.
are in a baseball game?
That would be 9.
Yeah. All right.
Most of the time. 9 most of the time. You can't have a shutout.
Brad, I think Brad is officially, he has done his research. He is qualified. He's going back to the energy shots.
Let's do this. So
how many outs in a regulation baseball game, Brad?
No, don't ask him that. That's not nice. That's making him do math.
You already broke me. Is that not good enough for you?
No.
Leave the poor guy alone.
I blame you. I blame you for all of this.
Whoa, that sounded like you almost said I blamed you. That's why I got this shirt on.
Ooh, I do.
I'm glad.
No.
I'm glad you're.
No, I think I am not the I'm not the individual on this show that would be throwing out the anti-Semitism here, but that's for a different topic.
Hey! That's no way to talk about our guest while they're on the show with us.
It's okay. Definitely, for those who should know this, Brad is playing a character today. Mike is never playing a character. What you see is what you get, baby.
So, let's go ahead and jump on into your list. You said that you don't have a particular order that you want to go in, but there is one you want to save for the end. So, let's go ahead and jump into the first one of my choosing.
Do we want to go with our honorable, a couple of honorable mentions real quick? Especially in light of recent events?
Well,
yeah, sure.
Why not? Again, say what the and maybe Mike, you can help, or Brad or whatever. Why don't you at least tell the audience kind of what the criteria was for this? Because it's not an easy. This by no means was an easy list to come up with.
No. So they end up convincing me to make this a top 8. rather than a top 5 or top 10 like we usually do. But this is supposed to be the best baseball movies of all time. Mike?
And this was not easy. I went over to Zim's house one night. We were watching the NBA, and we were just kind of sitting around goofing. I think it stayed till like 2 o'clock in the morning. But I mean, we really had a long discussion.
I tried to get him to leave multiple times. He couldn't take the hint.
It's true. It's true. It's true. I overstay my welcome all the time. But I mean, in all honesty, man, like, I think you and I really kind of butted heads on a couple of movies.
But that's probably surprising, right, Mike? Because I was going to say we probably agreed more than we have on this over almost anything we've discussed movie-wise putting on a list.
And that's just you and us talking. That's not anything we've done for the show. But like, I agree. I think this is something where, like, we sat down and we were like, all right, let's go ahead and start naming them. And you start naming them, and I'm like, yep, yes. Oh, holy crap, this is going to be easier than I thought it was. And then we started getting down, and it was like, well, there's some movies that we're going to have to leave off that a lot of people are going to kind of give us a side-eye look when we say that they didn't make it.
Is it a little weird to you guys that, and maybe I'm overthinking this, but what caught me as interesting is that there are so many baseball movies out there. I found that pretty interesting when I was looking at the list and thinking about that. There's more baseball movies than any other type of sport movie out there. Like, it's not even
the American
close
pastime,
if you look
son.
at it. Well, I know it's the American pastime, but I find that very interesting, right? Like, if you try to do a top basketball list, or you try to do a top football list, or golf, or tennis, or whatever, you wouldn't have that many to choose from. Like baseball, there is a huge library of films. And that's interesting because that kind of speaks to like what you're saying, the American pastime. It could speak to what Brad was saying about something formulaic, but there is something about baseball that is very appealing to people. So I think it's a good decision that you guys chose to do this baseball movie list because Mike knows a lot about sports and Brad knows a lot about keep on going.
No, that's definitely accurate.
But I think
Brad, I would have to believe, Brad, that your limited knowledge on baseball, that a lot of these films on our list you have enjoyed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in fact, I think there was maybe two movies on the entire list that I hadn't actually seen before we put this list together.
See, and that's pretty interesting, right? I bet you couldn't say that about every other sports movies that's out there, but baseball in particular, I think that's what I'm talking about. It speaks to something because Brad's not going to see some film that comes out on baseball or sports and go running to watch it, or that makes it at the top of his queue.
Right. But but I mean, like I said, there were movies that we really looked at that were like, wow, like these are, it's going to be really hard to leave these off the list. We couldn't decide on basketball. It's a classic. We couldn't decide if it was a basketball movie or a baseball movie, so we just
that was not
baseball all the way. Are you kidding
list,
me?
Mike.
That should have been baseball all the way.
I love that movie. I really do. It's so bad, but I love it.
After going down the rabbit hole of baseball movies, I gotta say, it feels like it qualifies. I mean, it has all the hallmarks there. So it feels like it's the same qualifications as Major League.
You think you're excited?
Like a
these
baseball
nipples.
movie.
It's hard to think just 5 years ago this game was played only in driveways.
Man, it's hard to believe that just 5 years ago those girls were in grammar school.
There you go.
My favorite line in that movie, and when I think of people like Brad, and this really is true, I will say baseball has one line. Because Brad, tell me if you can follow me on this one. I am sure for someone like Brad who does not love sports by any means, and he tolerates us and our insanity when it comes to this stuff. When they are talking about all of the tiebreakers in that one scene, and they're like, oh, and then we're going to have the potato sack race, and this is going to be followed by only on the opposite day of the whatever. I am sure for someone like Brad, he's like, that is exactly how I feel when I'm watching sports. Like, there's another game? You got to be kidding me.
It seems accurate to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
And then, of course, they follow it up with, we're in month 9 of the grueling basketball playoffs.
That's how Brad feels about COVID. COVID's broken him. He's like, what the hell is this? Sports is going on forever right now.
Right. But
Mike, that's how I feel about the Marvel universe. Can it ever end? What are we in phase 35 right now?
We're only in phase 4. We're going into phase 4. Calm down.
When does the country reopen? Is that phase 6? I'm sorry. We probably need to get back.
We'll see here in about. We'll find that answer out here in about 2 months.
Oh, and over in the comments on Facebook, Mike, we have a special request for you specifically from Mondo. He wants me to remind you that Morris got ejected from the Mavs game, just cause.
Oh, good.
Who got ejected?
Thanks, Mondo. Marcus Morris.
Oh, yeah, good, wonderful.
Shocker.
Yeah.
But I guess do we want to acknowledge the news that happened the other day?
I think we have.
Yeah, kind of.
A moment of silence. Should I take off my hat?
Please. Especially since it was a movie that was very close to making this list.
I was actually surprised it didn't make it, honestly.
Yeah, it was one of the ones that just missed it, to be honest with you. That was one that me and Zim went back and forth on for a while.
It was on the cusp. It was on the cusp.
Yeah,
so,
unfortunately, we yeah. All right, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, as of the recording of this show, we are now 2 days past when the great Chadwick Boseman has passed away. He did an amazing job in 42 as Jackie Robinson. He has done an amazing job in so many other films. He played Thurgood Marshall in Marshall. He played the ever important, ever amazing King T'Challa in Black Panther. He was an incredible actor that really left us way too soon, and his presence will be deeply missed.
Yeah, he really, it's pretty amazing that, I'm one of those believers. We don't have to go too into faith and stuff right now, but I believe that, a lot of times things happen for a reason and there's real symbolism. And I think that it's very apropos that for a guy who was 43 years old, I mean, so young, to be taken that early and to have played so many iconic black characters, from James Brown to Jackie Robinson. I mean, Thurgood Marshall, King T'Challa, like you said, it's pretty unbelievable when you think about it. And I wrote to Mike, I got kind of chills when I thought of the day that he dies on not only Jackie Robinson Day, but he also passes away on the creator Jack Kirby of Black Panther's birthday, which I found fascinating. It gives you those, heebie-jeebies, I guess you would say, but for me at least, he will be very, very missed. He really was. I told a lot of people, I thought this was the next Denzel. This was the next iconic black actor who would be up there. Like, he was ready to take his place after Sidney Poitier and Denzel Washington as the next big thing. And I'm not necessarily saying that he wasn't, because I'm just sad, because I think he had a future ahead of him that would have had so many more roles that we would be sitting there talking about and going, wow, this guy. And he also really lived a pretty unbelievable life. Like, he was a real, he stood by what he said.
Well, he also, the day he passed away was also the same day as Martin Luther King's March on Washington.
Right.
So, yeah, and honestly, the stories that have continually come out about him before and even since Friday just continue to make him sound like one of the most incredible people that you could have met behind the scenes, and the amount of people that stepped in to help him get to where he was as an actor, to get the opportunities he did, from Denzel Washington giving him the chance to be able to get into a young actors program straight out of Howard University, to working with Angela Bassett after having previously met her when she came to visit Howard, and was actually her escort on campus while she was there, and just continuing to build out more and more within the black actors in Hollywood, and just every one of them coming in to build his career into something that had every reason to have kept on escalating to the stratosphere. It was incredible, and like I said, it's sad that we will not get to see him continue to rise, because he frankly would have kept on going up. He was set for amazing things,
and to battle through 4 years of this terrible cancer and to keep it under wraps. And I don't think that, by the way, the fact that they kept it under wraps, I feel like a lot of people are going to talk about different reasons why that was the way it was. For me, I think, again, it points out Boseman, who he never wanted it to be about himself. He always wanted it to be about the message and the characters he played. And I think had he let his illness become the story, it would have taken away from some of these iconic roles that he played, or people would have been saying all the things they're saying now. What an amazing person, what a warrior, a guy to do this and fight through what must have been just grueling times that, God willing, none of us will ever know. But like, for him to do that, I mean, you talk about, like I said, again, a guy who was walking the walk, you know, and backing up not just the words with actions, but his life like that. I mean, again, I think shows us what a true hero he really was. I mean, what a spokesperson, what a representative for humanity. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he stayed out of the press. He stayed out of the paparazzi. He you didn't really know all that much about his personal life. He really did embody his work in the best ways.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, we hear so many stories about people in Hollywood and how scummy and how it's really this dirty town and everything like that. And everything that you heard about this guy was the exact opposite. Like, he was somebody that you wanted to look up to. He was somebody that carried himself in such a positive way and spoke about, you know, really big, important issues, and really carried himself as somebody that people could look up to.
And can I say something? And I know I'm going to be controversial, but for those who know me on the last call, I am going to say something. I also get a little angry when these things come out, too, along with my empathy, because it also pisses me off to think of, here's a guy who, from what we know, did everything the right way, and, like, leaves us because of this horrible disease that infects so many people. And then there are other people who, like, have great talents, and they just piss it away because of their own selfishness or their own, you know, whatever. And plenty of those people make it through and come on the other side. And some of them are just, like Mike said, just kind of jerks from the moment till the end and never get it. And that always angers me a little bit, because you look at this guy who was only doing good, and then you feel robbed. Like, you feel like someone came in and took him away, and it's not right because he did things the right way. That's what really sucks.
Yeah. And the fact that so many people that have worked with him, so many people that know him personally, talk about how humble he was and how it didn't go to his head. He wasn't, you know, like, dude was the star of arguably one of the most important superhero movies to ever be made. A superhero movie where we finally got representation for an entire community in a genre, and he never let it once go to his head.
Yeah, and honestly, that I don't think it is emphasized enough how necessary that aspect of it is, because superheroes are supposed to be able to be the one of the things that can inspire everybody and make people want to strive for the best in ourselves, and not having somebody to be able to look at within that pantheon of great characters to be able to say that is the person I look up to because they're like me, that sucks. So to have him be that for just a massive generation of kids that didn't really have that before was amazing.
I don't think I wouldn't pigeonhole it with just black or white or Hispanic or Asian or anything. No. This guy was like a role model for everyone, and I think part of who he is as a person helped not just the film, not just the story, but like you're talking about everything from the merchandising to whatever. Like, this is someone you wanted your kids to look at and say, you can be like this guy. And I think that in a weird way, death and tragedy makes us build something up bigger. And he will probably now be a bigger figure than he ever was, because now so many of the stories that we never knew are coming out about him, because clearly he didn't want to ever be put on some, billboard or statue or whatever. And you hear people talking. I like it because now a lot of people are breaking their silence in tribute to him. And I think he will just become that bigger than anything we ever could have imagined, and he should be. He deserves it because he lived his life that way.
No, I think he's going to be remembered in the same way that Christopher Reeves is, in terms of the iconicness of the character everybody sees him as, but also the impact that he had on people.
Yeah, look, he will be. It's funny because there's a comedian that I follow on Facebook that talked about, watching Static Shock for the first time, and that was the first time that he saw a superhero that looked like him. And Chadwick Boseman's going to be that guy for an entire generation. Yep. Like, there is, God willing, we, are able to still be doing this, 15, 20 years from now. All three of us are able to talk and still, like, we're going to look at an entire generation of actors and comic fans and superhero fans and all of that, and they're gonna be like, they're gonna sit there and say that man was my central inspiration.
He's on the Mount Rushmore, and that's why what I began with was, I don't think it's just a coincidence that he played so many iconic figures in the short amount of time that he was with us. Because people are going to keep on looking at that and going, holy cow, like, this guy was Jackie Robinson, this guy was James Brown, this guy was Thurgood Marshall, this guy was King T'Challa. Like, like I said, I mean, it gives you goosebumps and stuff like that, but I don't think that's just a coincidence. I really don't.
No. Yep. And that was what? That was all within a decade?
Yeah.
Right? That was all within 8 to 10 years? That's insane.
Pretty much, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
But with that, let's go ahead and get back to the topic of our video, your top 8 baseball movies. So, alright guys, so, one more shot of my go-go juice.
What did you just call it?
Oh my God, by the way, Brad, we've got to, I swear to God, I am going back on this, and I am recording that moment that Mike just put the arms together and said Wakanda forever. Oh my God, that is amazing. That is better than him holding up a fist. That just made my life right there. Yes.
Alright,
God bless you, Mike.
First movie up on the list, A League of Their Own. So, League of Their Own. Guys, why is this on the list?
Because Zim wanted it on the list.
This is one, Brad, that Mike and I had a little bit of a conversation about. Personally, now, we didn't do a top 10 list, a top 8 list. other than one film that we both agreed was the greatest. To me, I could argue with just about anyone. I believe this is one of the greatest baseball films ever made. It's a film that, forget about the fact that Tom Hanks, this is the film that you have to understand bridged Tom Hanks between the Forrest Gump, between Tom Hanks becoming the mega star that we know him as today. He goes from basically gaining, losing all the weight for Philadelphia to gaining all this weight for A League of Their Own. And then he follows that up with Forrest Gump and Tom Hanks. So one, you get the birth of a superstar, really a superstar in Tom Hanks. This is the beginning of that journey. Two, let's be perfectly honest, we're talking about women's baseball, which nobody knew anything about. I don't care what they try to say unless you were a total baseball historian. Penny Marshall, who this is at the height of her career, probably aside from Big, I would argue the greatest movie she ever made. And the further thing is, it's a story that also combines in the war. It combines in a strong female perspective on what was going on, which we didn't get a lot of even up until the early 90s. And also, let's be honest, an iconic soundtrack that when Madonna is at the height of herself, and by the way, even though I don't think she's a good actor, she actually showed some pretty decent acting chops in this movie.
Okay, so it's a movie about a team of misfits that nobody really knew they wanted. Has an iconic...
Wait. What do you mean misfits?
Oh, no.
This is about women whose husbands went off to war and the country decided they still needed baseball. Stop, wait, you cannot make A League of Their Own. You're not going to win with this formula.
No, I know exactly what he's doing.
A group of
just go, Brad. Just go.
So,
go ahead.
Great album.
I know what you're doing.
Great soundtrack. Team of misfits in terms of the overall concept of what a traditional baseball movie is.
This is the hashtag #MeToo movement. I'm not about to call these women misfits.
It's the movie that was great that nobody knew they wanted. So basically, you're saying this is the Guardians of the Galaxy of baseball movies. Got it. Okay, sure.
Damn it.
No. I would know.
God damn it, Brad. I swear to God.
No.
I swear to everything. I swear to everything. If you have a superhero movie that is a reflection of all of the movies on our top 8, I will reach through this goddamn computer and slap you.
Mike, can we agree that would much more be a good comparison to either Bad News Bears or Major League? He can't win that with A League of Their Own. That is totally different.
I feel like he's got something else for A League of Their Own.
He probably...
Or, I'm sorry, for Major League. Major
but
League.
Again,
he's got something else for Major League.
I get where Brad's going with this, but you have to understand, this movie busted the box office, right? This movie was a movie... There are so many, especially baseball movies, right? My wife hates baseball. I mean, when I say hates baseball, I mean with a passion. Like, she thinks Brad, worse than you could ever imagine. Like, she thinks it is God's, wrath upon us that baseball has been invented. And especially with a lot of women out there are a lot of baseball movies that it doesn't appeal to the mainstream, be it women, be it men, be it nerds, like you say, whatever, if you're not a big sports fanatic. I think while this movie, baseball is at the core, this movie had people going to see it who could have cared less about sports or baseball. They were going to see this funny, historic movie that had this all-star cast in it. By the way, and also
you're still describing Guardians.
Gina Davis's career, talk about disappearing from Hollywood, for God's sakes.
You're still describing Guardians. I mean,
here we go again.
Massive box office hit. Star cast.
Who is John Lovett's Michael Rooker? You see, the way it works is the train moves and not the station.
reached out to a segment of audience that was not previously catered to by other films of its kind.
My wife
I'm
still
just saying,
hasn't seen
you're
Guardians
still
of the
describing
Galaxy.
Guardians.
Son of a bitch.
We'll let Brad have his day. Mike, what are your thoughts on A League of Their Own?
Look, I pretty much completely agree with you in that this was a really important movie because it talked about a section of history that a lot of people didn't know about. Right? Like you hear I'm wearing his jersey, Teddy Ballgame himself, Ted Williams. You hear the stories about guys that were professional athletes that enlisted and served in the war and everything like that. But what's oftentimes forgotten is that the women were at home working and they were also carrying on like the sports leagues and everything like that. Like this was something that not a lot of people knew about. And it was really awesome that this film shined a light on that and really brought it to the public's attention because it was a big deal. Like these were like
huge.
This was still a time in American society where women were expected to be barefoot and in the kitchen.
Yep.
Like, let's be honest.
Yep.
And
again,
here they are out playing professional. Yes.
And Madonna's
and then if you actually want to get down to it,
Madonna's character was very, I'm not going to say controversial, but was very different for that period of this woman who's sleeping with all these guys and doesn't care and doing all that stuff. You didn't see a lot of that with any of it. And a correction, Brad, on you with this one. Unlike the typical formulaic sports or baseball film, let's remember that it does not end the way you expect it to end at all. It has a very surprising ending, which most of those films don't, which is they don't win the big game. They lose to the other team.
Spoilers!
Oh, sorry. Spoilers.
No, but look, cinematography, solid. Like, the baseball sequences themselves are incredibly well shot.
Very well shot.
In terms of, this is a very, very fantastic film. Let's call it what it is. It's a great all-around film, and then when you throw into the fact of the historical significance and the fact that they actually did a great job representing the game itself while they were playing, yes, 100%.
Yep. This is a movie, by the way, guys, that cost $40 million to make, the budget. It goes on and makes $132.4 million. And the film has been selected in 2012 and preserved in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. So this is a movie that had a huge impact on our country and on film in general.
I don't think it's hyperbole to say that this would be almost to the level of a 42 or a Glory Road or something that shows. Yeah,
but my point is 42 had been done. You know what I mean? Jackie Robinson had been talked about. Again, this broke barriers. And Brad, it sounds to me like Mike is making my point that this should have been on the list. Why was this ever disputed? That's a better question. As I said in our thoughts on this,
I would have put 42 over it. I think that's where you and I disagreed, if I remember right. Is I would have
my argument of 42 was that I actually think the original Jackie Robinson story movie is better than 42.
Right.
But that's just me.
Right. I remember.
But we know
Mike
has never seen a film before 1990, so I'm limited on what I can discuss.
That's 100% right. I've never seen a film before 1990, and yet correct me if I'm wrong. Several.
No, Mike, don't give me Star Wars. Wait, Brad, let me
just double check.
Mike doesn't like any films before 1990.
Except for the fact that my number one and your number one came out in 1989.
Yeah. How old were you?
2.
Okay, let me correct it. Mike doesn't like any movie made before he was born.
The Natural was made before I was born.
Yeah, that's true. All right, continue.
All right, so then,
Suck it.
next...
Thank you, Brad.
Next movie on our list is Bull Durham.
Oh, look!
So,
at
guys,
Kevin. Look how hot Susan Sarandon is.
Other than the fact that apparently one of the main things you need to be able to make a good baseball movie is Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner.
But you know what's so? But you know
what else
about
made this movie on your fit your list?
Okay, but you know what I would like to say about that? That's a great way to start it, Brad. I think that this is one of the only films, and I love me some Kevin Costner, but this is one of the only films where Kevin Costner plays who you think Kevin Costner would be in real life. This cocky, womanizing, arrogant kind of turd. And he doesn't act that way in almost any other film you see him in. And he kind of gets himself pigeonholed into this very earnest, kind of character. We see that in so many of his films, including what Mike and I will talk about as our unanimous number one. But you saw it in Untouchables. You saw it in JFK. You saw it in all the other sports films from, what was the one about the cross-country team that he played in? McFarlane. Any of those movies, he's basically playing the same character, and although you love it, it's that Jimmy Stewart all-American kind of guy. In Bull Durham, he throws all of that out the window, and I actually wish that we got more Kevin Costner the way he was in Bull Durham as Crash Davis throughout his career, because he's so freaking good.
So I will push back. There's a movie that you yelled at me that I said that I couldn't put on this list that Kevin Costner's in, where he plays a very similar character to Crash Davis.
What movie is that? I don't know what you're talking... Oh, stop it. No, he doesn't. He's talking about that piece of garbage that the only reason he wants on the list is because it's made by a superhero nerd. Brad, do you know what we're talking about?
Fantastic director. Fantastic director, sir.
Do you know what movie he's talking about, Brad? Directed by Sam Raimi. For Love of the Game.
Love of the Game.
Mike.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that was Sam Raimi.
And Mike's picking on me. He knows I actually like this movie, not as much as he does. But Mike, give me a break. Just because Kevin Costner plays a little bit of a athlete who likes to cheat around a little bit on women, or his massage therapist, he still acts exactly the same in the film.
No, he doesn't. He was a piece of crap.
Nah, but not
and
like...
Crash Davis is a more likable character than Billy Chapel was, because Crash Davis is literally brought in to actually groom and actually teach this young kid how to not act like a jackass.
I disagree. He still acts exactly the same. You cannot say in that movie, he still has his very slow delivery. He still is everybody's best friend. He still is like this very we didn't talk about anything. You can basically put Billy Chapel as Kevin Costner in Draft Day. Okay, you can put Billy Chapel. It's the same character. You know it. That's why you're laughing. He's the same guy. So because he's kind of a jerk with Jennifer Garner.
Okay. Let's get it back on track. So
yes.
No, Bull
Ron
Durham's
Shelton.
fantastic.
Talk about Ron Shelton a little bit, man.
Yeah. No, the cast for Bull Durham outside of Kevin Costner is easily one of the funniest damn casts that I've ever seen in a comedy. Like Robert Wool's fantastic. Tim Robbins is like the young kind of like over his head kid that you got to breathe out of your eyelids. Well, crap! It looks like he's breathing out of the wrong eyelid again. Like, and of
Susan
course,
Sarandon.
Yes, Susan Sarandon. But
by the way, let's not forget, Mike. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but goes on to become one of the greatest entertainers in history in Las Vegas is in this film. Danny Gans who also left us way too quickly. And if you don't know about Danny Gans, I would highly suggest that you go check him out. He was known as the man of 1,000 voices, and he could impersonate anything, and he's unbelievable to watch on YouTube. He plays one of the teammates because he was a former minor league baseball player. He leaves Bull Durham, and he goes on to become a $100 million a year act at the Mirage Hotel and then the Wynn in Las Vegas, which a lot of people don't know. He's the one, Mike, in the film who's sitting there talking about with them, I can get a rain delay. He's in that scene. He's in a lot of those. He's in a lot of those movies. But the other thing that gets lost on this, Ron Shelton.
It's a natural disaster.
Ron Shelton, White Men Can't Jump. Ron Shelton, Tin Cup. Ron Shelton is kind of the he in a way becomes this kind of sports director that makes all of these films. He even did Play It to the Bone. Some of them worked, some of them didn't.
Yep.
But Ron Shelton is a pretty unbelievable director, and he really brought sports into the mainstream. He was kind of that guy with films, especially in the 90s. But this movie had so much. It was about a minor league baseball team. This had more misfits for you, Brad, than League of Their Own did.
Yeah, this actually probably would have been a better representation of the Guardians.
But it also was something that I think, Brad laughs at and he'll appreciate. It was a satire of the game, too. It showed how ridiculous in many ways baseball is. It makes fun of itself. There's a lot of inside jokes. There's a lot of things that go on, which is like, really? Like, these dudes get on a bus and play this game and go around doing what they do for an opportunity to try to make money? Like, grow up. Like, what is this ridiculousness? And it's iconic. It's pretty. It's an amazing.
So film. It's Mystery Men.
Luis's girlfriend put a curse on his glove. Is that right? And none of us can know what to get Millie for their wedding. We're dealing with some serious crap out here.
So you're telling me it's Mystery Men? Okay.
Brad, it starts the power couple of Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon that go on to become one of the most well-known at the time celebrity couples that lasted for a long, long time. And Tim Robbins, remember, this is pre-Shawshank. Susan Sarandon, this is pre-Thelma and Louise. So you have two, and along with Kevin Costner, you have three Academy Award caliber nominated actors all on the screen at once before really anyone knows who they are.
Yeah. And don't forget, it gave us one of our greatest scenes in any movie ever.
Which one? There were a lot of scenes.
It all revolves around.
Was it one of the tidy whitey scenes? Because I know I know that you really wanted to stare at Tim Robbins more. I get it.
Oh my God, he loves when he's staring at Tim Robbins pitching naked. Oh my God, no, the greatest scene I love is still hit the bull. Just hit the bull.
Oh.
And he says, just do it. And the guy says, I don't know where the next one's going. I don't know where he's throwing it. I swear to God. That to me is one of the greatest things of all time.
That one's great. Holy hell, Meat. He just hit the bull. You just won the guy a free steak.
You told him.
And then, of course, Mike.
He teed up on that like he knew what was coming. He did. I told him.
Don't ever shake off your catcher. And of course, come on, Zim. You know which one it is. You know which one it is. I can't say the word.
Sexual scenes?
No, I'm talking about the missed call where Crash Davis gets ejected for calling me Uncle
where
what?
He says, there's one thing you don't call them, and that's a bleep sucker. And he says, Crash must have called him a bleep. Yeah, that's an amazing scene. I agree. But it's like the same, Brad. I mean, for you.
You can't run me for that. You can't run me for that.
Brad, how do you view Bull Durham? Away from the comic book thing for a minute. How do you view Bull Durham as a movie?
Bull Durham, it's okay. I mean, I think it is perfectly entertaining. I don't personally have a preference one way or another for it. It's a movie I'll watch and I enjoy, but I wouldn't necessarily put it in one of my favorites. But it's good.
For me, that's what I
want
good. On this also. I'm very interested to find out as we go over this list, like how you feel about these movies, not being a big sports fanatic or a baseball fanatic. Yeah. What did you, and I didn't get your thing in League of Their Own. What are your feelings about that?
League of Their Own I actually do enjoy. I'm going to be honest, I actually do like it. I think there's a lot to enjoy about that movie.
You make me
no,
sick. Let's go.
I think the main cast for that is just, it's a fantastic combination. But Bull Durham, I think it's okay. It's not one of my favorites, but it's good.
It's entertaining. Okay.
I understand why baseball fans enjoy it, but for me personally, it's okay. Sure.
No, but I think it's very important as we go through this list that you kind of give that perspective, because I think we need that. Because it is interesting to me how people that aren't in love with that kind of view it.
Yeah.
Right.
So next up,
what we got next?
Maybe one of the most like baseball movies on your list. 8 Men Out.
Yep.
You want to talk about, Mike? You want to talk about man? Oh man! Talk about an all-star cast, by the way. Look, there's your superhero right there, Brad. And Michael Rooker.
Charlie Sheen.
But
yeah.
him too. But
I mean, to be fair, Charlie Sheen does feel like he's a real life superhero that just like got a little too full of himself, you know.
To me, this film is the best.
Got it.
This film, to me, there were a lot of movies out there that tried to show baseball in its historical context. You have films. This one does as good of a job as any to me. You feel like you are there in 1918, 1919. The cast is phenomenal. The story of the Black Sox that is used over and over and over again in other films and other analogies, this brought it to life. The book is fantastic. If you ever want to read a great book by Elliot Asanoff, 8 Men Out is phenomenal. And after you read that book, you realize what an unbelievable job was done with this making. It is like it takes the written page into the screen. It's really phenomenal. But I love this movie. I really do. I think Cusack, Strathern, Michael Rooker, D.B. Sweeney. I mean, this movie has so many great actors. The director actually plays Ring Lardner, the one who's in the train singing, I'm forever blowing ball games. And it also, by the way, great job by David Warner playing, not David Warner, what am I forgetting? Playing Arnold Rothstein. He's so good as Arnold Rothstein. And Christopher Lloyd. How good is Christopher Lloyd too in this movie? There are so many great moments in this. I love this. It's just a historical, incredible film. I mean, you look at that. If that was made today, I feel like that budget would be like $200 million or something. I don't know how they did it so well.
Yeah, like you said, the part of what makes this movie so great is the cast and how on the nose it was, or it seems like it was. Like, let's just be 100% honest. But like this was one of those things where it's like, historically, when you go back and you look at it, nowadays it doesn't seem like that, what these guys did or were alleged to have done was going on all the time back in the day. And like there's stories of the Cubs throwing World Series in the early 1900s and the Cincinnati Reds throwing World Series and like this is back when baseball was religion.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a game. This was back in the American pastime when it's, you would spend your hard-earned money and go to the ball game. And so, like, this film has so many scenes that just hit you almost like at the heartstrings, where it's like, say it ain't so, Joe. Say it ain't so.
And this is also a film, Mike, and for baseball fanatics, like the famed Polo Ground at Ebbets Field, like, the Yankee Stadium and what they talk about back when neighborhood kids were playing with their baseball idols in the street, when everyone knew who they were. And you have to really understand that this scandal killed baseball. I mean, killed it. Until Babe Ruth basically saves baseball with the home run in his character, essentially. And I know that a lot of times this is cliche and it's overused, but I want your guys' thoughts on this. I think this is a film that was about 10 to 20 years ahead of its time. I think if this film comes out in more of the modern time, I think it would have been huge. Like, I think with everything baseball's gone through, remember, this is before the steroid scandal. This is before so many things happened. This movie was released so early. I think after everything we've gone through, if this movie had come out later on, I think it would have been a much more appreciated, much more lauded film. And I think, unfortunately, this is a movie I'm really glad it's on our list because I think it gets forgotten. And I think there are a lot of people out there that haven't seen 8 Men Out. And I would highly suggest to people, especially history buffs, to go back and watch this because it is a piece of American history.
Yeah,
100,
and honestly,
100%,
this
100%.
This is a movie that I actually didn't have a superhero comparison to because it was very it was so historically based and very specific with the story it was telling that there really isn't a comparison. But there are, David, you are right. There were several movies, similar type of movies for the sports genre that came out like mid to late 2000s that this would have fit perfectly right alongside and would have it would have felt completely appropriate. So no, it's a very specific and unique story that I think you're right. It came out a little earlier than people were necessarily ready for this particular type of story, but it was good.
And if you want to know how tied this is to the history of baseball, when I told Zim I convinced you to let us do a top 8, he immediately said, "Oh, because of 8 Men Out."
To me, I've got one for you, and I'll go a step further. I would challenge anyone to show me, wherever you stand on the list, a better made film, either baseball or sports. This is actually a piece of art. Like, it's cinematic art. When you watch this, you see, I mean, the cars, the streets, they take you back to that time, and it is so well done. And you think this is before CGI, this is before all the digital era and everything. This to me is like the baseball equivalent, and this will sound a little weird, but you guys will get it. This is like a baseball equivalent to the old Cecil B. DeMille films, the old classic movies where they built big sets and they had all the authenticity of everything. This is so well done like that when I watch this, yes, it's a baseball movie, but I also feel like, man, this is a well done film that's very historically accurate and they took their time, the set direction, the cinematography, it's really good. I mean, really, really good.
Yeah. So the thing is, when it comes to trying to do a top whatever of any of the sports film subgenres, you need a movie, at least one, that is less about the game and more about the history of that specific sport, and something that is so necessary to understanding where that sport came from that without it, the list would be incomplete. Like, you wouldn't get the full picture of the sport that you were trying to indemnify with this list. And 8 Men Out really does feel like one of those movies. There are a couple others that could have been included that would have done a similar job, but not quite as well as 8 Men Out, because you're right, it tells a very specific story about a side of the behind the scenes of baseball that was so critical to its very existence as it is today, and its history.
And Brad, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm going to also add in what you're saying, because you're going there, and I don't know if you're going to touch it, but I also think it's one of the first sports movies ever, forget about baseball, to talk about ownership versus players and the feeling of indentured servants, the feeling of being underpaid, the feeling of these guys being greedy. That's why I also say ahead of its time, because what you have later on is lockouts, you have holdouts, you have all of these battles with collective bargaining agreements, you have the whole media and advertisement endorsement deals. Remember, 8 Men Out is released way before this thing explodes into what we know it is today. And it really shows you like how these owners, especially in 1919, the stranglehold they had on these players. And it was literally players going to these owners with hat in hand saying, give me something. I can't live off of this, or I need to do that. It's, to me, that's also way ahead of its time.
Oh,
so they were the NCAA before the NCAA. Got it.
There you go.
All right, so next movie on the list is, and I dare one of you to disagree with me on this one. It is the Deadpool or the blank man of your list, Major League.
Major League, yep.
Look at the young Wesley Snipes.
I loved Blank Man.
Mike, can you please just one time do Charlie Sheen, aka Wild Things haircut?
Oh man,
I'll do it.
Look at Tom Berenger. Look at our buddy. Look at Mr. Insurance guy right there.
Yep.
Pedro Serrano.
Dennis Haysbert. Yep.
Brad, I'm not going to disagree with you. Major League. Look, I remember seeing Major League with my brother, and for my birthday, my brother, he and I used to do this, and we're talking about, when was Major League released? Was that 1987, 88? When are we talking?
That was.
Tell me when that was.
The same year as Field of Dreams?
89.
89. So I will age myself by telling you I'm 10 years old at the time. And I remember on my birthday, my brother, this was such a big thing for us because he's 14 years older than me. We used to go see 3 movies on my birthday. And so I will never forget going into the old United Artists Theater that is now a church off of Park and 75 in Dallas. And we started off our morning. And my brother said, what 3 movies do you want to see today? And we both agreed. And my brother, obviously being a film student at a BU and very into Hollywood stuff, that was a big decision, but he let me choose. So the first film we saw that day was Major League. And I dragged him really to Major League more than him. And I don't know at the time what inspired me, why I was so into this. I didn't even know what I was walking into. You gotta love that this R-rated film that your 24-year-old brother is dragging.
Your brother took his 10-year-old
my
brother to see an R-rated movie?
My family, and this is why I'm so mentally unstable now, but you have to understand that my brother was the guy who showed me Halloween 3 when I was 4. 5 years old. This is my brother who, look, it's why I give him everything, but that moment opened up to me. I will never forget that moment. It holds a special place in my heart, but to this day, Major League is the airplane of sports movies.
Yes.
And it's so freaking good, and it stands the test of time, and when it comes on, I feel like I love it as much as I did as a 10-year-old boy in 1989 when I watch it to this day, and I can't turn it off. It's so good and so funny, and it's great.
I mean, the cast is just so phenomenal. The fact that they got everybody in this movie that they did, from Charlie Sheen to Corbin Burnson to
and this
James
is where
Gammon,
they're at the height
Renee
of their
Russo.
careers.
Freaking Wesley Snipes.
L.A. Law. Wesley Snipes coming off of White Men
Dennis
Can't
Haybert.
Jump.
I mean, you got freaking Dennis Haysbert in this movie, and Tom
Renee Russo.
Berenger. I mean,
this is the beginning of her career.
Oh yeah,
such a good cast, such a fantastic thing.
I think Airplane is a fantastic comparison because just like Airplane, there's so many quotable scenes and there's so many legendary one-liners in this film that, like, to this day, like, my God, the number of times that I'll be watching a baseball game and some dude will throw a wild-ass pitch and I'll just a bit outside.
Well, can we mention that? Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball. This takes his career to a whole nother level, and what people don't realize
I'm sorry. I think you mean Harry Doyle, sir.
Yeah, but Bob Uecker, who plays Harry Doyle, is the play-by-play guy for the Milwaukee Brewers forever.
So brilliant.
Forever.
Yeah.
And he was doing this kind of shtick forever, and this opened him up to a whole new world. But like you just said, just a bit outside, when this guy has won the Triple Crown, home runs, RBIs, and nose airs. He says, when he sneezes, he looks like a party favor. I mean, all of those Vaseline ball, KY ball, he knocks that one to North America. He's gonna need a visa to get this one, or South
visa to catch that one. Yep. Oh,
and I mean,
looks like they're wasting no time in going to the Duke. This guy leads the league in hit batsmen. He even threw his own kid in a father-son game.
Well, and the fact that you got such an amazing movie out of a director who was, at the time, only a second-time director.
David S. Ward.
You got this out of it. And, I mean, a director that, in his entire career, has only really directed 6 things. He's written plenty and produced enough stuff that, he is well known in general, but as a director, his biggest successes were Major League and Major League 2. And the fact that you got this out of him is, I think, very lucky that somebody had the foresight to say, you know what, let's give him a shot.
The cast was so
the cast was
the chemistry,
the writing was amazing.
made it.
Oh yeah.
Are you trying to tell me that Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?
I mean, but it's just, and again, the one thing, like, I will always say it's the Airplane of films. They want you to believe basketball is the Airplane of films, but I think this is the Airplane of films.
No.
Why? Because unlike basketball, as much as we joke, that really legitimately is a farce from start to finish. Airplane, while being a parody, still has some great stuff in there that is very, I think Major League does a better job than all of them personally, in that you actually care about the story and you care about the characters more than those other, like, you genuinely care. It has a heart as well. But I mean, it's I mean, give him the heater.
Forget the curveball, Ricky. Throw him the heater.
Oh my!
Oh, of course, let's not forget. Hey man, Jake, we got a problem. Serrano wants some extra power for tonight's game. He wants to sacrifice a live chicken. We can't have guys throwing up in the clubhouse, man.
And then he brings him
a bucket of KFC
in a bucket.
And then, of course, later on in the movie, when he's down 0-2 in the count, we should have got him a live chicken.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna be honest. I know that looking back, maybe one of the scenes in the movie that today's audience would look at and go, "Ooh, I don't know," but that was one of the funniest freaking parts of the movie. Like, I loved everything about his character. Just,
oh my God,
Joe Just by an eyelash at third.
Just yes.
Yeah.
Well, and again, this goes into right, like why I say Airplane again. Why I think it serves injustice, because it doesn't care about political correctness. It doesn't care about anything. It shows you how ridiculous the whole thing is, and it's like it's very much a satire on society and our life. And I mean, even ridiculous scenes in there, like the spiked head guy, hugging the yuppie at the bar. Like, it's just, I mean, it's great, but it's a slice of Americana. I mean, it really, really is.
Yeah, but like, and like you said with Airplane, like, everybody is such a caricature of like athletes or like, Ricky Vaughn being the dude that was, well, where'd you guys find this guy? Oh, the California Penal League.
Right. How'd you get there? Stole a car. I mean, it's ridiculous, but you accept it all because it just works. It works. That's the best thing I can say about Major League. It works.
Willie Mays Hayes. Run like Mays and I hit like Hayes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you may run like Mays, but you hit like...
Yeah. All right, I love that movie. We can
such
move
a great
on.
movie.
I love it.
So, next movie on the list, and another shot for that.
Oh, boom, boom.
I swear I'm going to have a heart attack by the end of this thing, but
please don't.
It's going to be worth it.
It'll be starting to look a little Charlie Sheen-esque.
Okay, can I just say something? This is going to get a little morbid, but if this was the way you would go, Mike, how fittingly would it be that Brad's wearing a sports exclamation point shirt? Like,
sports! That's what we're talking about.
Just the way Brad knew his time would come, wearing a sports shirt.
Yay, sports!
All the sarcasm intended. Now.
All right, let's go.
Coming up next, we have Moneyball.
Oh, look, a real film.
Yeah, I mean, I will stand.
I mean, if you ever wanted to say there was a movie on this list that was absolutely for the sports nerds out there, I feel like this was it. Like, this is 100%. The sports nerd movie.
This movie is literally the executives of the heroes.
This movie is, it's so funny you say it's the sports nerd movie, because I think of all the films on our list, this might be the least sports movie or baseball movie
But it's the biggest nerd movie.
From a far, like, if you're a person, like, looking at it from the outside in, like, for someone like me and Mike, who are obviously big baseball fans, for someone like us who love the numbers, and baseball's all about numbers, I love the book by Michael Lewis. It's an amazing book, and the book is far more nerdy than the movie is. The book really dives into, like, formulas and equations and Bill James's stuff and everything, but what I will say is that this movie, first of all, the genius that Bennett Miller, of all people, would direct this film coming off of Capote, which is crazy to think about. The fact that it launches Chris Pratt's career. Nobody knows who that Chris Pratt is when he's playing Scott Hatterberg in this movie. That Jonah Hill is so not
a serious actor.
Jonah Hill in this film. And what people don't realize, and I always get on people who criticize Brad Pitt, who say, oh, he's playing Brad Pitt. Here's the weird thing. Billy Bean looks a lot like Brad Pitt. No, not you. Not you, Brad. He looks a lot like Billy Bean. It's weird if you go look at pictures of Billy Bean. They actually have some really similar facial qualities. And I will also say that if you've ever heard Billy Bean talk or watch an interview, he nailed Billy Bean's nuances and who he was. This is one of my favorite Brad Pitt films because I feel like he is so understated. He is so perfect. And by the end of that movie, I will stand by that last scene, spoiler alert, in the car, when he is listening to his daughter sing the song, and you see some of the best acting of that guy's career. I don't care what anyone says to me about that. I love this movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman nails Art Howe, for those who don't know who Art Howe is. This to me is I believe it was nominated for Best Picture, right?
It was.
Rightfully so, by the way.
It was written by Aaron Sorkin. So I mean,
correct.
You're
the
gonna
movie
be
was Aaron Sorkin's
you're shooting for something there.
Well, look, I think.
But I will say this is definitely not the. Well, this isn't a movie for the sports cosplay nerds. This is for the fantasy sports nerds.
Well, right, like,
the numbers
like you said, without going too much.
Guys.
Yes, without without going too much into it, because we could talk about it for an hour and a half, but
apparently, because you guys are
drive sports now.
You guys really are the fantasy sports nerds. If we had to categorize you both, you are the fantasy sports nerds, not the sports cosplay nerds.
Right. We look into the numbers, and for me, it's my profession, so I'm really part of it.
Yes. Look, and this is, like I said, this is the movie that really tackles the analytics and how much the analytics have completely and totally changed the game. From where it was, well, we're going to watch this guy and we're going to send our scouts to look at this guy, and this guy just doesn't have it. Or, you know what? I don't know what it is, but this guy's got it. We need to spend a... Whereas this is the huge shift from this guy looks like a ball player, this is what a ball player is, to we're basing everything on playing the odds and playing the percentages.
Which, by the way, to this day is still the ultimate fight that goes on within baseball. It hasn't been solved yet. My one problem, Mike, I will say, I actually don't know how Mike feels about this. At the very end of this film, I'm not going to give away exactly what goes on, but basically they say that the Red Sox use a lot of Billy Beane's theories to win the World Series. Yes and no, though, is my problem, because they still had one of the highest payrolls in baseball the year they won the World Series. So while, yes, they used some stuff for statistics and stuff, the major thing of Billy Beane was he had no money to work with. He had to figure out another way to be successful, and it was him versus the world. And so that was a major part of the book. That was a major part of the film. The film starts with saying, here are the two payrolls of the two teams playing. So that's a little misleading because Mike knows it. Well, the Red Sox were still playing with more than $100+ million more than what Billy Beane had to work with. I get it, but it's still not the same.
Well, so one of the things that they didn't go as in depth as they should have. But one of the things that John Henry and the legend Theo Epstein,
Super Jew,
that's right. Praise be to Theo.
Did it for two franchises for our baseball fans out there, the Cubs and the Red Sox. He broke two curses. Always takes a Jewish guy, Mike.
But the thing that they did is they very much, now granted the payroll was larger, but they still took guys that fit into that mold of being analytics guys where percentages and everything like that, we plug them in here, they do X and Y for us. Like one of the best scenes in Moneyball.
I agree they use some of the Bill James stuff. I just think if you listen to interviews by Billy Beane, that was part of the film he didn't like, is that he said at the end to say they use these principles, Billy Beane still to this day is fighting that ridiculous world of having to work against the big boys and the blue bloods in a number of different ways, but payroll is also a major part of it.
Yeah, look, it absolutely is. But like you said, like one of my favorite scenes in that film is when they're all sitting around the table and he's butting heads with all of the scouts, and they're like, well, how are we going to replace Jason Giambi? You know,
100%.
How are we going to replace his production? And he's like, okay, well, we've got these three guys that are going to compensate for one guy. And all of the scouts are pushing back like, absolutely not. He's got A problem. He's got B problem. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do this. And Billy Beane just looks at me. He's like, I don't care. Why? Because they get on base.
And I also think, Mike, what they don't talk about, and Brad or Mike, you can tell me, but obviously I know a lot about Billy Beane, but there's no question, too, that a lot of Billy Beane's antics and a lot of his stuff is very personal, based on his own experience of what he went through. And so you're never quite sure whether Billy Beane is doing it to change the game or also as a revenge against the game for the way they treated him. And it's fascinating. I mean, Billy Beane is a fascinating character. And by the way, before this came out, you don't know anything about Billy Beane. Even after this came out, he is one of the most quiet, just hidden icons. I mean, you see in the movie, that is totally true. He doesn't watch the games from the stands. He's a very weird individual. I mean, he's incredibly strange.
All right. Well, we have 3 more movies on this list, so let's go hurry up and get to them because we are almost an hour and a half into this. So...
Yeah, because if we continue this, we're gonna, we're gonna be on par with some of Mike's, iconic films, like Christopher Nolan movies that are 40 hours long, and
like I said, you guys already
that
broke
are masterpieces.
We're gonna,
like
Mike.
Said,
this is gonna turn into a Ken Burns documentary.
Like I said, you guys already broke me with the topic of today. Let's not try to rub salt in the wound too much. So, with that, next up on the list is...
Hey, Mike, can you focus?
The Natural.
Wonder Boy. Robert Redford still looks
Pick me out a winner,
by the way.
So, I feel like this is the sports equivalent of Unbreakable. You got the middle-aged hero that comes out of nowhere and changes the game.
This is a superhero movie. This one, I would agree with you 100%.
Yep.
This is the most fantasy, and I think people can say forever, by the way, this is directed by the great Barry Levinson. This is done in, the mid-'80s, right? Early to mid-'80s, this comes
84.
out.
84.
80 what?
Yeah.
84.
84. So, and there are a lot of different things that people talk about, why they didn't use real teams' names and things like that, whether it was licensing or other stuff. I think it had more to do with the fantasy world that he creates within this film. Again, a ridiculous cast. I mean, Robert Redford at the height of his game, a young Kim Basinger that nobody really knows at this point. You've got Robert Duvall. You've got Wilford Brimley. You've got Barbara Hershey in a little cameo role before she's famous.
Glenn Close. Let's definitely not forget about her.
Yeah, you guys forgot about her in the trivia with Academy Awards. The great Glenn Close. Sorry, Brad, I couldn't help myself. Tom Selleck wasn't in this movie, Brad. And then... no, this movie... Oh, and by the way, can somebody give a shout out? Mike, who are we forgetting that's in this film? I don't want to give the spoiler alert, but he meets an untimely moment in this film. Oh, come on. Shame on you. Trivia question. Who dies in this film? The great Michael Madsen. Shame on you guys.
Oh no, I knew it was Michael Madsen. I was waiting to see if Mike actually knew it.
No, but, Mike doesn't know it. He only knows it if it's trivia.
Michael Madsen feels like he's in a similar position as Sean Bean. If he makes it through a movie alive, he's good.
And then and right now my brain is slipping, but come on, who plays the role of the guy who's betting on him? With the owner that's involved in it. My mind's slipping now. Who plays that role? Where they do that great game where he says, "I know what's in your pocket." And oh, he's such a great character. He plays it's not Robert Loggia, but it's someone like Robert Loggia. My mind is slipping, but this movie to me is it's the fantasy.
Happens a little age.
Huh?
Yeah. What? Nothing.
Not John. You're not thinking John Finnegan or Alan Fudge, are you?
Who am I thinking of in this movie? He's great. It's the guy from. It's the guy from Christmas Story. He's the lead in Christmas Story.
Wilford Brimley.
Yeah.
No, not Wilford Brimley. Wilford Brimley.
No, sorry.
He plays the father in Christmas Story. The lead character. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
No, look, you are 100% right. This is a superhero movie.
He plays the dad in Billy Madison.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Mike.
this is the story. No, you're good. This is the guy of the all-American small-town kid that wants a dream at going and living
Garen McGavin.
His wildest
Thank
dreams.
you.
So, and then he literally, like, this movie is the superhero story, like Brad broke it down earlier in his coked-out rant.
Hey, it's been holding up for all but 2 movies so far. And even then, one of those 2 movies was still super nerdy.
Right? But no, look, in all seriousness, like, this is one of those, like, literally go down the line of every cliche in Hollywood and just check it off. Just check it off. And it's not to a detriment. It's so well done that so you're like, you're sitting there and you're like it's, if you'd have tried it any other time, it would have come across as cheesy, and it's like, there's no way. Stop it.
Yep.
Stop it. Stop it. This is bullcrap. There's no way.
And can we please talk about the score that has become iconic that they play when Texas Rangers home run at every home game? Da-da, da-da-da-da. That, I mean, that music has become iconic.
Yes, it has.
But if you want to talk about it, there's some controversy behind that. There's some controversy behind this because a lot of people that read the book don't like the fact that they changed the ending for the movie.
Right.
There's a lot of people that Brad rolls his eyes, but like there's a lot of people.
You're saying you got some fans that don't appreciate the fact that the movie didn't stick to the source material? No, nerds never get mad about that.
But look, in terms of storytelling, like I said, this is one of those films that's so transcendent because like it really taps into the, like you said, we treat sports figures as our heroes. Like Roy Hobbs is a superhero. Roy Hobbs is a guy that literally, I could be Roy Hobbs. I came from nothing. This guy came from out of nowhere, and he just hits the cover off the ball. And he's the all-American, down-to-earth, like every man wants to be him, everyone wants to be with him.
This is the
quintessential movie. Exactly. This is the quintessential, like, mild-mannered man that goes on to be a legend kind of thing.
Right.
This is the everyman kind of thing.
This, Brad, is where your thing really holds water. This is the hero, the villain, the guy fighting through a dark past. I mean, literally in
fighting
many ways,
adversity.
it's Superman. It is Superman. I would say this is the equivalent of the film The Superman. The lightning hits the tree, that becomes his weapon. He has this girlfriend of the past that he had a kid with. I mean, this is the superhero movie.
There is one other movie on this list that is just as superhero as this one, and we're getting to that one next. You know I'm talking.
But yeah, I love this movie. I really do. The Natural was one of my favorite films growing up. Mm-hmm. I definitely think it's a fantasy, and I think that, again, beautifully shot, beautifully directed. The dialogue is great. The way
even the ending. Even the ending where he shatters the lights and he's going around the bases and all the sparks going down like it's confetti.
It's beautiful.
The fact that they parodied it in basketball.
Well, and Mike, if you haven't caught it, your favorite and my favorite all-time baseball film steals a scene from this, the ending, which no one ever really talks about because in The Natural they didn't do it as well. But it is the dad and son playing a game of catch out in the field.
Don't get too far ahead of yourself.
I'm just saying, it was in The Natural before it ever was in that other movie.
But it hit harder in the other one.
You gotta give credit where credit's due. You gotta call plagiarism where plagiarism happens and copying happens. Yeah, I know, Mike, that's a hard pill to swallow, but you know it's true. There it is, Brad. I knew he couldn't hold out. He had to. It just got interesting.
No, I'm freezing.
No, you're not. Yeah, sure you are. Continue.
All right, so now, second to last movie, definitely one of the most superhero movies on this entire list. One that I don't think anybody is ever going to say they don't like. The Sandlot.
You know, it's funny.
Look at him.
I was so...
Look at Mike.
So...
Look at Mike. Mike is Ham.
This movie is everything a superhero movie is. It's hard to even try to make a comparison for it. I mean, sure.
Oh, you mean from a superhero standpoint?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh. No, I mean, you can make a couple, but, man, it's oof, so hard. It basically is its own superhero movie.
So I agree. So, Brad, when Mike and I talked about our list, this was a movie where I basically gave it to Mike. I said, look, you're never going to convince me that The Sandlot or Rookie of the Year or, movies like that, and there's so many, Little Big League, Mike and I talked about. There are so many films that have been done that really are like the Goonies. You know, it's those kid-like films that are great, the gang getting together, and it uses baseball as a way to do it. I love The Sandlot. I think it's great. But this is where it was very hard, because what are we putting on this list as far as, are we putting the best made film? Are we putting the movies that we love? Are we putting like whatever? And I said to Mike, I'm great with our list, and you can choose between these 3 or 4 films what you want to put on it, and I have no problem with it. I think The Sandlot's great. It's a classic kids movie for me. It's wonderful. I think the characters are terrific. And I also think I've seen this film 25 other times in a million other genres. It's not original. It's not, whatever. It's not really believable at times. But you know what? It's a blast. And it definitely stands the test of time as bringing you to your childhood dreams, whatever that was. For Brad, I'm sure it was some treehouse nerding out on comic books or whatever. For Mike, I'm sure it was, in a treehouse of imaginary friends nerding out. And I think, for me, it's like I bring back the days of like me going with my friends, running to play baseball and basketball and hanging out together and having sleepovers, and you had the big bad neighbors and the scary people across the street, or all of those things that come to our minds. It's wonderful, and You're Killing Me Smalls has become iconic. I love The Sandlot. It's enjoyable. Do I think it's a masterpiece of film? Absolutely not. But sometimes you just got to have a lot of fun.
I think it is the baseball equivalent of the Avengers or the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man. It is a lot of fun. It is absolutely meant for the family. It is a great way to be able to have a very unusual team-up of characters that just go very bonkers. And be able to get the job done. I mean, you even get freaking Darth Vader in this movie. And a ghost Babe Ruth. And, I mean... It's amazing.
Such an amazing scene.
Wait, Brad, you get Dennis Leary, for God's sakes. You get a young Dennis Leary, man. Like, when have you ever seen Dennis Leary play such a nice, that was probably my biggest thing when I remember watching The Sandlot. And before Dennis Leary was Dennis Leary, and I go back and watch it now, and you keep on thinking like Dennis Leary's going to become some scumbag in this, or whatever, but he's not.
He's just a good guy.
He's the most simple character. And by the way, can you get a shout out? You also get a Karen Allen sighting in this film. I mean, it has everything.
Yeah.
Like, this movie was, look, I think when me and Zim talked about it, this was one of those, like you said, Zim was like, he's like, one of these movies is going to be on it. And I'm totally okay with that. And I think my argument for The Sandlot was it tackles so many things that we can all relate to. Like, we can all relate to being that kind of nerdy kid that doesn't totally fit in. Maybe it's because he moved to a new town. Maybe it's just because, you know, he's trying out something new, like being the outcast, finding these ragtag group of kids that come together over something. Like Zim said, like, I remember hopping on my bike with my glove and my bat over my shoulder and riding up to the park and spending the entire day there playing ball with all my friends. Like, this is so much the coming of age Goonies. Like, these are these kids, this is the bond that they share, it happens over the summer, they're friends for life. But then, like, I really think that the ending gets overlooked, where he kind of sits there and as he's narrating, they all go off and they all start disappearing from the Sandlot, and, you know, life takes them every which way, but, like, he's got that one summer burned into his core memories. And then you go to it and it goes back to the current time, and he's sitting there calling the game from the stand, or he's calling the game from the press box, and there's Benny the Jet. He made it. Like, he's the one kid that made it. And of course he's got the picture of them all together from when they were kids, and that's like the last thing that you see in the film. It's like, this was very much the coming of age. Like, we can all relate to it because we were all kids.
It's completely not believable, and at the same time it is believable. It's, you know, I think that's
basically
genius, right?
It is the visualization of what the promise of a kid's summer baseball experience could be. You know, it is that visual embodiment of all the promise that you feel as a kid about what that summer vacation should be like, and what the typical baseball experience is for a young kid. And
can I also, though, say, I want to put in one thing in here, though. This is a film that gets more and more sad for me as the years go on, and I will tell you why, and I'd love your guys' thoughts on this. I feel like this has been lost. I feel like this idea, you know, you look at why the Christmas Story was portrayed in the 50s. You look at why the Sandlot is portrayed in the 70s. You look at why, you know, so many of these films have to now go back in time because we are in a different world, and unfortunately, in most situations, because of technology, and we don't have to have that discussion now, that every time I watch movies like this, or the Goonies, or anything, especially this, though, I get more and more sad, because I don't think that this really exists anymore, unfortunately. You know, when kids are going to the gyms or the baseball fields, their parents are taking them. Kids aren't, they're hanging out, but they're all on their phones. They're all doing this other world. They're all checking out YouTube. They're not just, let me grab my glove and, you know, my dad's got this baseball. That's what, you know, what kid wouldn't know Babe Ruth nowadays? Because you're Googling it. You know, like, this movie couldn't be made today without having to do a time warp back.
Look,
and so when I watch that, I say, what are kids like nowadays, you know?
Yeah, there's not really a modern equivalent for the experience.
Look, yes, 100%. Those are all fantastic points, but also, you brought up the Babe Ruth scene. Like, I don't think stuff like that goes on anymore. Like, I don't think kids really know the history of the legends that came before them. Like, where Benny has a dream where the ghost of Babe Ruth is sitting there talking to him, and it's like he doesn't want to let his hero down. Like, where he sits there and he tells him, like, just remember, kid, heroes get remembered, but legends never die.
Like, or you're going to the pool together, and the hot lifeguard who's, you know, sitting up there and doing all that stuff, played by Marley Shelton, by the way. You know, it's not like that. Or the new kid in town, you know, going into this situation and they're going to all hang out. Like, it would be about Instagramming. It would be about, you know, it's just so different of a time. And I think that it when I watch it, it makes me sentimental. It obviously longs for my childhood again that I can't go back to. But at the same time, it makes me concerned and worried because I don't see enough kids on their bikes. I don't see enough kids playing on the baseball diamond. I feel like adults, it's become much more about helicoptering and hovering, and you're in your kids. You know what I mean? Like, how great is it in Karen Allen in that movie where she's like, "Go get into some trouble." Like, you don't have to tell me. I don't care what time you're home. Who's doing that nowadays?
Well, I mean, right now especially, you definitely can't send kids to go hang out in big groups at the local pool.
That too.
I mean,
that
you
too.
know.
But
but you're right. But Brad, you're seriously. But it's like, and again, like a lot of for me, the innocence of being a kid before technology really hit has been taken away from us, and the growing up moments of kids going to a pool and pulling the stunt on the lifeguard or fighting the big bad bully or scared of the dog in the yard. It's just a different world, and I'm not saying positive or negative, but for me it actually makes it kind of sad at the end. And I don't know if I'm the only one. I don't know, whatever, but I feel like it's the true loss of innocence in a sense. But
no, look, 100%. And then of course you even get the famous scene where, you know, Benny brings out the secret weapon, PF flyers, shoes guaranteed to make a kid run faster and jump higher. Like, of course, we all know that shoes don't make kids run faster and jump higher, but like that childlike innocence of like, it will give. That's true. That is true. But like you said, it's almost like kids aren't kids anymore. Like, you don't see that anymore. Where like kids will go out there and just be kids, right? Like the whole scene, like you said, like it's an unbelievable film because of like how over the top it is. But remember, it's being narrated from the aspect of a kid. It's supposed to be that over the top. Like, you're supposed to try to see it through, like, if you remember back, how many times did you do something where you were, like, looking back at it, you're like, you know, maybe that wasn't such an amazing display of athleticism or talent or whatever.
Oh, my God,
in the
Mike's
moment, you were like,
his
holy
life.
crap. I know, right?
Mike, that's amazing.
But you look back on it and...
say that.
All
I
right,
broke
whatever.
Brad again. That was genius. Out of his own mouth, Brad. We didn't even have to say it.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump ahead to the final movie on our list. And in order to be able to really pull myself back together, last shot of Go-Go Juice.
The last one. You're going to need it for this.
Okay. And now the conspiracy theories really kick in. We have Field of Dreams.
I'm already crying.
So you have a hero that is inspired by a journalist, a sports writer. I feel like you can see some parallels here to that other movie that is so famously centered around the interactions of a superhero and a journalist. Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
Yeah, the only problem with Daredevil is that happened a little later than Field of Dreams. Can we just say that? I mean, you can't blame Field of Dreams for... I actually like Daredevil, and I'm one of the few people, by the way, but...
hey, it involves dead people, too. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Dead people that resurrect in some form or another.
I mean, now you're just... I don't know where you're going with this. Mike, do you want to begin? Where do you want to go with this? This was our unanimous... We said no list, but this was our unanimous number one. We both agreed. Greatest baseball sports movie of all time.
This
is my top 10. This is my top 10. This is on my top 10 films of all time, period. Not just baseball movies.
Like, all of the things that we talked about in previous films, like capturing the nostalgia of times past and seeing things through like childlike wonder and everything like that, and the father and
total
son
fantasy,
and remembering
like
America.
The Natural, even further fantasy on this. Like you said, dead ghost of our past being transported to 1970 whatever Minnesota. You know that nothing makes sense in this. There's no limits, there's no boundaries, there's none of it. It's all just, you have to go along for the ride and believe it all.
So, Mike, we actually have a comment over on Facebook directed at you specifically from your buddy Michael. David. He says, Field of Dreams is overrated. Changed my mind.
Oh, he's a piece of shit. Changed my mind.
Okay. I wouldn't say that. Well, here's what I would like to ask. This is Michael, you said, who's doing it? Okay, and I don't know Michael, but I will say I think I need a little more specificity with that, which is why does he think it's overrated? Because that could help the discussion. I guess we'll go here if he wants to respond to that and say this is why, or if he just doesn't get it, or what the hype is, or anything like that. Mike, go ahead. You obviously know the person, but I always ask that to people who just give the generalized, is it over, I feel it's overrated. They got to tell me why they think it's overrated.
No, I think that's fair. But I think, look, like for me, like you and I talked about, like all of the things that encompass literally everything we've talked about in the past films, the past 7 films of this count, this movie does and then some. Like this is the looking back on a time when life was so much simpler and, people were just enamored with the past and like the amazing, baseball, or America's like a locomotive. It's been torn down and rebuilt and torn down and rebuilt again, but the one constant's been baseball. And, it, and then look, I will admit I cry like a bitch every time I watch this movie. Like I ugly girl cry because you get to the end of the movie and it's something that I think it's something that we all can relate to, right? It's the relationship between fathers and sons, and it's
fathers and sons. Yes.
Here's the story's going this way. You think that he's going to be saving the soul of Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was his dad's hero, and all of this, and he never got to reconcile with his dad, and then you get to that scene where it's, if you build it, he will come, and Shoeless Joe just walks off, and there he is, takes off the catcher's mask and turns and he looks at him, and it's just like, oh.
Like, see, it is, to me, Mike, I agree with everything you're saying. To me, this film is brilliant for the simplicity, oh, here we go. The simplicity of it. I get it. This film is so simplistic and yet so complicated. It's a film about, like Mike is saying, but it goes deeper than Father and Sons. It's a film about forgiveness. It's a film about second chances. It's a film about memory. It's a film that dives into so many tough things that, unlike a Forrest Gump, which is in your face with the history of who we are as a country, this movie does it in a much more simplistic, much more thought-provoking way where you have to dive between the layers. And it has everything in this, from a guy who goes off to destroy his corn farm. Why is he even there, right? He's there because the world had changed and he was a hippie. And he had gone to Berkeley and met his wife there, and they want to escape this crazy world and just go somewhere where it made sense. So they decide, let's go to Iowa, and he is running away from the demons of his father, who he decided to leave the house and run away because he was held in this like conservative world where his dad just wanted him to be a successful baseball player. And he's tried to basically always be the dad that his dad wasn't to him with his daughter, and be the husband that his dad never was to his mother. And what you get is you have so many damaged characters in this. Shoeless Joe Jackson, Terrence Mann. You see our country fighting against, in a board meeting about banning books, that talks about the history of where we are as a violent society and nobody has the right to have creativity or stand up against aggression, to a guy who became a doctor because he never got the chance to have that moment of trying to make it as a baseball player, and he goes on to heal so many kids, but he didn't get the fame that he thought he could get. I mean, as simple again as playing catch with your dad. And then it ends with, if you build it, he will come, go the distance, and this magical moment mixing in with, none of it makes sense, by the way. Again, I can't stress it enough. It doesn't come together like a nicely, packaged birthday present with a bow. Sure. Is this heaven? Is this Iowa? And I don't mean I want you guys to fill in, but it doesn't make sense. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense, because the genius of the film is about what you can't explain rather than what you can explain.
Well, and I mean, so much of the inspiration, or inspirational aspect of the movie, so much of the daddy issues, regret of past decisions, all that. In a bit more serious sense, it really does have a lot of connections to most of the themes that ran throughout the MCU's Phase 1 movies. There's a lot of similar concepts that are addressed. It just happens to be all condensed into one movie rather than across multiple. And because it was condensed down to a single movie, it does make a lot more sense. It's a lot more cohesive story in Field of Dreams, and it's a lot more impactful because it all comes all at once, one after another, until you finally get to the big climax and you're left emotionally drained by the end of it. It is a fantastic movie, and I totally agree that there is no top baseball movie that would be complete without this.
I think it goes back and forth between baseball. There's so many connections that I feel like a person who watches this film, 10 people could go into this movie and watch it, guys, and they could come out with 10 different responses on what they thought the film was about. Because I think it hits you personally in your own world, that and I think that's the genius of it. And I think that someone who completely could care less about baseball, Brad, or sports can watch this film and come out of it and may have a feeling that has nothing to do with sports, nothing to do with baseball, and you have your own inner conflicts, inner past history, inner things, whether it be daddy issues, whether it be family issues, whether it be the end of an era of society, whether it be our country and our history and whatever that is, you will walk away from this. And it's also really much right about the ghosts of our past, whether it be literal ghost or, in our own mindset. And it haunts you. And I think your whole life, for me, and I'll just throw this in, for me as a Jewish person, every year we celebrate Yom Kippur, and that's our Day of Atonement. And to me, this is a film that when I sit there in synagogue every year and I'm reading through the way of asking people for forgiveness, which is what you as a Jewish person are supposed to do. It's not just about thinking about it. You're supposed to literally go to that person and say, if I've done anything to you this year, I ask forgiveness from you for those things that I've done, whether knowledgeable or unknowledgeable. But this film always comes to my mind on so many Yom Kippurs because Ray Kinsella is this person who holds all of this in, and he's trying to be honest with his daughter and his wife and himself, and it's that lack of forgiveness, not even for his dad, but a lack of forgiving himself for what he's done. And I think that you see that throughout the film with Terrence Mann. You see that throughout the film with the Dr. Burt Lancaster's character, who's then played so well by Frank Whaley later. You see that from her brother, Amy Madigan's character, of that you can only see the action in the film if you believe and you're willing to seek forgiveness and you're willing to atone for what you've done. And those, remember, it's not a coincidence that it's the Black Sox again. It's not a coincidence that it's all of these guys who had done something wrong and are looking for heaven and looking for forgiveness. And it shows even his own father, Kevin Costner, trying to find that same forgiveness and atonement at the end. And it's just so brilliant and so simple all at the same time to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a film that's about so much more than baseball, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's about forgiveness, it's about life, it's about being able to take a look at your past mistakes and move forward. But like the film itself even talks about stuff like that. Like where they're sitting there and he's like, "Can you believe this?" And he's like, "No, I can't." And he's like, "This is perfect. Like everything right now is perfect." To when you get to the moment before the big reveal where Ray's sitting there and he looks at Shoeless Joe Jackson and he's like, "Why don't I get to go out there? We weren't invited." He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Everything I've done is for you." He's like, "And not once have I asked, what's in it for me? So what's in it for me?"
And also, by the way,
he's like, "Well, is that why you did this, Ray? For you?"
The other thing, and by the way, let's also not forget the brilliant roles, right? It's our first introduction really to Ray Liotta. He hasn't done Goodfellas yet at that moment. It's our first introduction to Gabby Hoffman, who goes on to do unbelievable things as a child actress. It's our first introduction. Also, by the way, look, James Earl Jones, Kevin Costner, this is his, like, he had done these other films, but Kevin Costner, like, this is his biggest moment at that point, I think, to date, of what you see him as an actor. He becomes the great Kevin Costner after this. And Mike, it's not baseball, it's baseball.
All right.
It is, man. Like, it is such an amazing film. It really is.
Well, guys, we have officially broken the 2-hour mark. Wow. And we are down to one viewer that keeps jumping back in and out. So I think...
Oh, by the way, quick little thing for you. Isn't it funny, Brad, before I cut you off, that the guy who plays Brad Pitt, it always comes back to Brad Pitt. The guy who plays Babe Ruth in Sandlot is also the guy who plays Eddie Cicotte in Field of Dreams.
It's fair.
Just another throwback. The tie-ins go. They're endless. They're endless.
Nope.
All right, guys. Well, this has been an experience. I gotta say, it's been interesting.
The old saying about baseball is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I think this is actually rather appropriate.
We went extra innings, Brad. There's no time limit in baseball. You know that.
That's true.
Poor Brad. Brad, you win the MVP.
Okay, so with
that's most valuable player, Brad.
With that, guys, if you are actually still here, you are a champ for actually surviving this long. Please do not forget, if you have not already, to like the video and follow us over on Facebook, and like the video and subscribe on YouTube if you want to be able to see more of what we do. And of course, if you like our stuff but don't always have time for the videos, you can check out the audio for everything that we got over on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. And of course, do not forget to go check out our friend David over on the Last Call Podcast.
Down there again.
Actual sports talk over there.
It's an honor, guys. I love being on this. You guys do an amazing job. You really, really do. And I love being on the show. And the Last Call Podcast, and we're going to have Mike on soon. So for all my Last Call Podcast listeners who tune into this as well, it shows that you can be a sports fan, but I also have some nerd and Dallas Geek in me too. But it's always a pleasure, guys. It's an honor. You guys do an amazing job.
Hey. Shh. You weren't supposed to talk about that. That's just between us. You only had a little Dallas Geek in you once.
I can admit it. I've got a little Dallas Geek in me. A little bit. It's been passed like COVID from you guys to me. There it is. I got him, Mike. I wanted him off frame for one moment. I always get Brad off frame for one moment, and there it is. Look at the hair. He looks like Cameron Diaz now in Something About Mary.
Oh, was that a hair gel?
It was worth
great. I needed
2 hours for that right there.
Oh, with that, guys, thank you so much for suffering alongside me. Please don't forget to come check us out again when we are live. I believe the next time is going to be next week, because I think, Mike, you and I are both going to be busy the rest of this week, but next week, yeah. And for those of you who've actually been paying attention to our Instagram stories or Facebook stories, the new studio is coming along and should be finished a couple more weeks.
Wow.
So maybe you'll get to see that soon.
Whoa.
And just remember, guys,
the other reason for the bags under my
Friday.
eyes.
I'll see y'all out there.
Well, somebody will. I'm not going to join you.
I'll be out there
out
seeing
in the
it.
theater for that, but you do you. Well, you
God bless you, Brad.
I will risk
God bless
mine.
you, man.
I will risk my life for Christopher Nolan.
We know, Mike. That's your problem, because he really cares about you.
He does.
With that, guys, thank you so much. I'm Brad. That's Mike. That's David. We're Dallas Geek. See ya.